Ma'am, should I
Yes,
begin?
yeah, bro, you can begin.
Oh, thank you,
Rohan,
ma'am.
it's okay, na?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. A very good morning and warm welcome to everyone who has joined us today. My name is Dhruv Gorak from SY BCom Neswadia College of Commerce. In keeping with our commitment to ceaselessly impart knowledge and provide students with exposure to various aspects of the business world, the Startup and Innovation Cell of our college has organized a series of webinars on startup stories. So I once again welcome you all on the second day of our series of webinars. So our speaker for today, Mr. Vivek Sadle, co-founder of Legal Logic, a prominent city-based legal firm. Sir has 25 years of experience with expertise spread over numerous fields including international technology, commercial contracts, successful IPO, top trio venture capital investment, private equity, private equity funding, M&A takeovers, joint ventures agreements, managing investor relations, have worked with reputed Indian and multinational organizations with exposure to finance and treasury functions. Sir has worked with Persistent System for 13 and a half years as General Counsel and Corporate Secretary. He was Head of Investor Relations. He has working experience with Kirloskar Group, Bombay Dyeing and Cement. He is also visiting faculty of various business schools and law institute. Sir is also a member of Pune University Board of Research, ILS Law College ETV Committee, an adjunct faculty of Gaurav Sivadia College. Sir has been ranked as sixth investor relation professional in India by Thomas Reuters for the year 2011. He has also been awarded by Suryadetta IT Excellence Award in the category of Best CFO Company Secretary for the year 2005. We are indeed pleasure. We are indeed fortunate to have Mr. Sadle with us. Before we begin, we would like to set forth some guidelines for the smooth conduct of the webinar. Everyone is requested to keep themselves on mute. Questions or comments can be keyed in the chat box. Towards the end of the session, we'll have a question answer session in which questions from the chat box will be taken up, and attendees can also unmute themselves and ask directly to the speaker. A feedback form will be shared in the chat box. So I request everyone to kindly fill it out for the certificates, as the certificates would be generated. Please ensure that you put your email address correctly. So without any further delay, I would I would like to request Mr. Vivek Sadhu to take over the session and share his experience. Over to you, sir.
Thanks so much, Dhruv, and thank you, Maria Madam, for the invitation. The Startup Cell has been absolutely exemplary in terms of the way they have, effect thing together. So, congratulations to you. And the way the whole coordination happened was absolutely stellar and excellent. No hiccups, no nothing, and I think that's one of the first. From my perspective, a test of whether this whole thing will be successful or not. So I think you folks have started on a very, very good note, and this is a testimony from what I have seen Mariam Madam in terms of her, imparting of knowledge as well as the way she has been communicating with me for a long period of time. And it's an absolute pleasure to be associated and connected with the college, and obviously now speaking at the Startup Cell. Uh, I mean, the India story is buzzing, and we're not even started as yet. And this is a great platform for all young people and old people like me to make a mark in terms of what we can achieve in next, a decade or two. This is going to be really India's decade. It will always be it like that, provided we all take, steps, baby steps, and each steps count. We saw what happened with Freshworks IPO earlier this week and the buzz that it created. We saw what happened when Zomato got listed a month back. We saw what's going to happen when new age companies start to list on the India Stock Exchange. It's estimated that the overall market cap will increase, dramatically by half a, 500 billion US dollars, which is, reflective of what India is trying to create. Having said that, if you look at the economy, what we have and what US has, US is number one. We are on number 5 in terms of market cap. Even though we are on number 5, the difference between 1 and 5 is huge, and it's a lot of gap to carry and capture. If you look at number 2, which is China, and we may talk anything about China from a political standpoint, but just the sheer size of China today is 4 times of what India is on the market cap, and of course on the GDP, it's reflective of what the difference is. And one way of looking at it is that we need to do a catch up, but the second way of looking at it is that there is huge potential and the opportunity that we all together can essentially take, and dip our hands into. It's all about, are we able to sustain? Are we able to maintain? And are we able to capture the whole market? It's not easy. It was never easy. It will never be easy. But when you do it and when you actually achieve that, the fruits are huge, and the joy is immense. The pride is immense, and India is getting to that level, and we all are going to participate in that whole growth story. So I think these startup cells in the college, in the university. I'm part of Pune University board, and we're trying to do some of the changes that are taking place on the startup ecosystem from the Pune University standpoint with the cell that they created, the cell that you have created, a lot of incubation centers coming up. All of that argues very, very well for the ecosystem, and that's what the whole opportunity lies. My topic obviously is our story of Legal Logic, how we started, what was the motivation, and where we stand today, and what are the learnings overall. And we are 8-year-old. We don't like to call ourselves startup because we are a matured organization now, and people have to move away from being a startup and move to a mature organization as things go by. And we pride ourselves in saying that we now are a matured play, and I'll explain what I'm trying to say over time as we go about. Now, before I go to my Legal Logic story, what is more important to me is to look at me and my team and my co-founders and my partners as a venture and as a business, and not as purely a law firm practice, which is a very traditional one. And I'll explain what I'm trying to talk about. Very importantly, one thing is very clear to me as things are panning out, that each of the business, whatever you think about, and think about any business, digitization of that business and being digitally available is the key in any of the scaled up business or any business that you're intending to do. Need not mean that for example, as a law firm, as Legal Logic, we don't have technology as something that we do coding on. But do we play on technology? Yes, absolutely. Meaning, each of the things that we do today is technology enabled, and we can't live without technology. At one point in time, if there's no electricity, we can live, but without technology, it's very, very difficult. So all businesses, one theme is very clear now, that all business are digital in nature. Either they're front-ending on digital or they have a back-end supported by digital, but you can't live without technology. One theme very clear, and to that extent, each one of us has to embrace technology in some shape or form, and or have people who can help on the technology basis. If you as a person who's running the show have limited flair for technology. So that's one clear message that's coming in from all businesses, that technology is all pervasive and we all need to embrace technology. The second thing that I want to emphasize is that the opportunity always existed, the opportunity will always exist for the right ideas. That is very clear, and I'm going to explain as Legal Logic why I say what I say on the opportunity. And you need to create one, and once you create, there's enough to do in any market. And that's the second point that I want to make and emphasize on, that there is opportunity. There will always be an opportunity for right kind of play. Third and very important thing is that capital is not always the constraint in the business. The constraint is your mind, the constraint is your own thought process, the constraint is your ability to tie loose ends together and see if you are able to make something out of nothing. So capital is never a big constraint. It always is. Remember, capital will always remain a constraint, but that is never a constraint to start, anything specific. Uh, there are people who will be willing to help. There's you who will be willing to help yourself when you start to see the success. So capital is never ever the only constraint in life. There's everything else which is more important from a constraint standpoint, and I'll explain from our perspective why I say that. And the fourth important thing is that the network and the connects that you have play a huge part in terms of your success or failure. Uh, just as an example, and I'm not trying to say it just because Mariam Madam is here, but the sheer fact that you have someone who you trust, um, that person need not have a domain knowledge in what you are doing, need not have a specific understanding of your business, but the fact that you have an ability to pick up phone and make that call to someone who can listen to you will be extremely valuable, and therefore build network and build meaningful network. People friends on Facebook, people friends on social media are not real friends, and you all know that. The real friends are someone who you can pick up the phone and the person will take your phone and respond to it. He is not going to think as to why is he calling, what is in it for me, and stuff like that. You ought to have that network of people, and I'm saying both professional and personal, to ensure that you have the ability to share your thoughts, share your grievances, share your anxiety, so that that lonely process becomes inclusive. And that's a very very important thing of building network. If you look at Indian IT, which is the software industry, you will find that it is all the IITians, who rule that particular, predominantly most of the IIT folks would be the one who have become successful. And what is the reason? The reason is their ecosystem. Obviously, IITs, you have brain, but beyond brain, there is that network that these guys have created. If you go to banking system, investment banking or otherwise, you will find that IIMs are the people who are ruling that particular thing. Why is that so? Because one person who is an alumni of an IIM will get his own network going and hire from that network because he trusts in that particular thing. And therefore, you have to build your own network. And cartel, what we call as people coming together, that force works beautifully well. So the fourth point that I want to mention is that network is extremely critical. You have to build it, and that networking is not about one event or the other. It is a trust that you're building. It is a give and take. It is something that you would want to provide selflessly. And believe you me, as I'm sure your parents, your teachers, and you've learned it over a period of time, is that when you give something, you get 10 times in return. And that's another thing that we have seen in at Legal Logic, that when you give someone something and you connect someone with something, it comes back to you with 10 times return, if not today, tomorrow, if not tomorrow, day after. But aata to zarur hai. That's something that is a philosophy that I would want to make a mention. So with this 4 points that I mentioned to you, that's the overall life. It is very clear to me that the domain knowledge is important, the market that you're playing is important, the business idea is important. But even with some of those things which are mundane, like what we do is effectively, there's nothing great about running a law firm essentially. But all of these factors make it actually a great thing that you are now getting counted in the market, where people would have a brand recall value in a short period of time. And I'm going to share my experience around that. So that's just a preamble with which I thought it's important that you look at my experience from these perspective and see if that makes sense for you. uh, Dhruva, just quick question. It's 11:17. How much time do you want me to talk, and how much time do we leave for Q&A?
So can I answer that? You can take,
Please.
I mean, it depends on you. So if you want to take about 40, 45 minutes, if you speak a little less
All right.
and give
Okay.
more
So
time to answers also.
yeah. So what you could do is you could prompt me if there are more questions that you see and people have more questions. The idea is to benefit the whole crowd. I can keep ranting about what I want to, but let the questions flow. That's the whole purpose as well. So feel free to drop in questions, and I'm sure Madam or Dhruv or someone will questions to my attention, and we'll talk about it. So here is how we all thought about Legal Logic. My friend Sridhar Kulkarni, he already had his own practice, which was running very well. We've studied together since 1990 from 11th standard, pretty much done the same thing from study standpoint. I came to Pune first, he followed. I joined Kirloskar Pneumatic as I came to Pune. He joined Cessaciate. I moved to Persistent, and he started his practice. So that is, our journey together, essentially. And he was doing very well in his practice. I was doing fairly well at Persistent, having spent 13 and a half years there. Uh, and my another friend Vikas Agarwal, who used to work with me at Persistent, and Sridhar also knew him from the past. We all decided to, and we had another friend, Allahaduk, who was in Mumbai. Allahad, Sridhar, and I studied together in our Mullen College of Commerce way back in 1990. And we, one day were chatting and we said, what next in life for me and Vikas, especially because Sridhar and Allahad were already in practice by that time. And we said that, can we create something which is a law firm, and can we, try that whole thing out? I was running about, I was 36, 37 that time when the thought process actually started to become more concrete. And, I did mention this to my boss at Persistent, saying that Mind is talking something at the panel, and we would want to, give one shot at that. Remember, the life was very cool at Persistent with a decent amount of money, all facilities. So it's never an easy choice to make. But there was a burning desire to do something which was creating our own venture and trying it out one time. And my age was such where if I had not made that switch at that time, it would have been very difficult to make that switch. As you age, and you all are young people, you will realize my father used to tell me, but I never believed what he was saying. But now I clearly relate to it that as you age, your ability to take risk reduces, your energy levels change, and therefore it is important that you take a bet at a right point in time. So at that time, we thought that we had one chance in life to create something of our own, and for some reason it didn't work out. We could still come back to industry and possibly do a job again if the venture did not succeed. So we I spoke to my wife and said that, what, this is what it is. uh, we possibly may not have the cash flow as what we currently have, but we are fairly certain that we'll make it up big time as we go along. And she's a cool person, and she believed in what I was talking about, and she said, "Go all out. There's no problem, and just don't have an ego." Till that point in time, I always had success and one way street of having tested success earlier in academics. I'm a as someone as Dhruva introduced you, I'm a cost accountant. I'm a company secretary from India, UK, and so on and so forth. Passed all my exam first attempt, and as luck would have had it, I landed with job as soon as I had, as soon as I had applied. So there was never a failure. So my wife and my parents told me that, look, you've not tested a failure, but if you have one, how will you cope with it? And I told them that, look, I don't have an ego of wanting success at any cost. If this does not happen, I will come back and join a company and not worry about that I moved on and it didn't work out. Uh, as luck would have had it, and as we worked hard, 8 years now into practice, we're doing exceedingly well. A lot of people have helped us, and those thoughts now don't occur. Now the thought is, how do we grow? How do we sustain? How do we continue to be relevant to clients? How do we create an ecosystem which is more inclusive? How do we create jobs? How do we give uh, uh, a great career path for our team? How do we ensure clients benefit from our advice, and so on and so forth? So that's the transition that happened. But the thought process is very, very critical in my opinion, in terms of, first, at what stage do you start? When you start, what all your fallback options are. And one thing that is very clear to me is that, with the pace at which things are moving, had it not been for my partners, it is not easy to create what we have created, because this is a tough job, this is a tough world, it's a fast moving world, and you need that support both on the right hand and on the left hand to ensure that you are able to run the show with much more fanfare, and then good things happen to good people, as you know. So when we made that decision, what I also did was, because I was doing a very responsible job at Persistent, we created a team which took over from me. My very good friend and my colleague took over as a company secretary. Uh, Someone was hired to do investor relation function, and we said that the legal function we will manage as Legal Logic. And I'll be ever grateful to Persistent for allowing me, specifically Anand Deshpande, who is the CEO, for allowing me to start this particular thing, along with the Persistent legal work, which was a great start from our standpoint. Also, very clearly, both Ahlad and Sridhar, who were selfless in terms of merging their practice into Legal Logic and calling themselves as Legal Logic. Remember, they had their individual practice, they were doing very well, and they essentially agreed to join hands, which is not easy, to let go of your personal brand and then join hands with someone. And they joined hands, and we created Legal Logic. It is when we look back, we worked really hard to create an office. Remember, we had a day job at Persistent, and we only used to work on weekends to create infrastructure. people who moved from Persistent to Legal Logic, and from Sridhar's office and Allah's office, they had a certain way of working. We had to bring in that culture together to start this whole process. The idea was very simple. The idea was that we thought that we could serve clients. We thought that we had good network that we could build. We had that confidence of looking at things in a very clear manner and advising on cross-border situations. The confidence level, as I mentioned, was very high. At that point in time, Companies Act was changing from 1956 to now what we have as Companies Act 2013. And there were regulatory changes happening left, right, and center. We thought that that's the best time to lay our stake on the ground. And in Pune, there did not exist a meaningful corporate law firm. And we thought that instead of going to Mumbai, which we had an option, and starting something in Mumbai, we said that we will stay back in Pune and create this as a pan-India offering. We did, our thinking was right in the hindsight, because today we are the largest firm in Pune by a distance. And we do what we call as a full service legal and compliance end to end, with 60 plus lawyers that we have at Legal Logic. So one thing was very clear: we were not desperate from success standpoint, but we were very clearly focused on growth. We were very clearly focused on ethical way of working. Having worked at Persistent and with Dada and Anand, the process, in the mindset was very clear that we wanted to run, and we continue to do that, run the show without doing things which are not required to be done. The success is possibly not at any cost, but success at with ethics. What is what we started with. We met with a lot of people, by the way. Before we started, obviously, Anand encouraged a lot. And we also spoke to a lot of people in terms of what does it entail in terms of bringing people together as partners. What does it mean? What kind of offering should we do? What is it that we need to start with? And once we gathered our thought process, we put numbers, what we call as a business plan, without investing too much of time in terms of what the problem is that if you do a lot of planning, which is like a 5-year out and 10-year out, it's of no use, because when you're starting a venture, that venture needs oxygen on a daily basis. And what is that oxygen? Cash is the oxygen. So the focus has to be, what is your cash? What is your cash flow position? What is your cost? And how are you going to bridge that cost versus revenue? And we only focused on that, and we focused on clients, and we focused on our people. That was a very simple strategy. In any business, you have 3 or 4 ingredients to make it successful: your customers, your vendors, your employees, and the rest of the hygienes that you need to manage. Instead of complicating, we broke, because we were 3 or 4 of us as co-founders, we said that each one of us will pick up 1 or the 2 areas, and then what we call as divide and conquer the world. And that's exactly what we did as we started. Obviously, there was a lot of desire to do well, and there was a lot of motivation to do well. And with all the goodwill that we had in our previous life, we reached out to people. People have helped us tremendously, meaning, the help is from variety of standpoint. People have connected us with clients, people have connected us with vendors, people have connected us with people that we could hire, and so on and so forth. You need help at all juncture, whether you are a startup, whether you are a small company, medium company, large company, that help is required. And today we have almost 1,200 2,000 people who are working for us when we are sleeping. Essentially, they think about us, they think about Legal Logic all the time, and we keep getting references, from so many sources that we would not ever imagine that we have so many well wishers. But that's one of the distinct factor that we had in terms of putting our practice together, that we added a lot of well wishers. So, for example, Mariam Madam and Wadia College has been a great well wisher of Legal Logic. We get invited to various of these kind of programs. My partner Sridhar has spoken at Wadia College. I've been fairly regular coming in here, and similarly, we have a lot of connects in the academic world. Say, for example, on ILS, Symbiosis, DES, the New Law College, and so on and so forth. So we are entrenched now, Pune University as well. So we are entrenched with the industry. We are entrenched with the academic world. We are entrenched with the industry bodies like MCCI, TIE, HIA, Hinjawadi Industrial Association, SEEP, NASCOM, and so on and so forth, who are doing work for a specific industry, and we like to contribute around that. These are all, not-for-profit initiatives, what we call as pro bono initiatives, and we like to contribute in those. And that, as I said, when you give something, it comes back 10 times to you, and that is something that we have learned very clearly. That network building, as I mentioned to you, is all these well wishers. How do you build that? It's never easy. It is about giving more than wanting to receive. And believe you me that you receive more than what you give is very clear to me, and that is something that we are seeing on a very regular basis as such. I'll give an example of what I'm talking about. Yesterday, I received a call from a senior professional, and he connected me to one of the CEOs, a marquee company in Pune, and he said that, Vivek, I have given you a reference because this guy is wanting to look at options, and I thought that he should definitely speak with you, and he's looking at someone who could work with him on the ground to see if you guys can advise. Now, this reference happened because we have worked with the gentleman who referred us for a long period of time, and there is a mutual trust. We have helped him, he's helped us, and now it culminates into a reference which would effectively be extremely meaningful for us. And now, it's a lifetime relationship that you nurture, and that pays off big time. I'll give another example in terms of how this network and well wishes is very, very useful. Someone who is our well wisher connected us with a person who's now a star player at Legal Logic, and he's performing exceedingly well. There was just a reference saying that, hey Vivek, can you go and speak with him? He's looking out for a job and he wants to return to Pune. If you want to look at an option, that was a great help to see how we have benefited from this. Another example is, someone connected us on to the internet service provider. And now, as I said, all my business is internet based. If there's no internet, I can't work. No one in my team can work. And that internet service has to be up all the time. You can't have a downtime. Now, that introduction was very critical from our standpoint. We entered into relationship, and we have had an excellent experience in last 2 years while we are engaged with them. So there are so many of these examples as to some absolutely someone that you have never thought could help you, but in his mind, because you have helped him, he's reciprocating that help, and that's what is the network all about. And we've done fairly well from that standpoint. Remember, as a law firm, we can't advertise, and therefore the best advertise is the people whom we have worked in the past. And people do make references because they like you, because they want you to be successful, and we have never returned empty-handed. As luck would have had it, whenever we went for any meeting early on, and even today, people want to give you a chance when you are trying hard, when you are wanting it hard, when you are wanting it really hard to succeed. People can see that in your eye, people can see that fire in your belly, and they are willing to give you because you are persistent, because you are chasing them, because you are wanting to work with them, because you care for them, because you share certain things without expecting any specific thing in return. All of that counts big time in terms of looking at it. For example, those who are volunteering on this startup cell will see the fruits of it. Whatever voluntary action that you take, what we call as an extracurricular activity and a community work, that pays big time, because you do make a connection, and that's a lifetime connection, and that's what we exactly have done, and that benefited us. The other thing that has been very clear in our mind when we set up the practice was about clarity of our thought as to what we will do and what we will not do. For example, we are very clear that we will not do any secondment work, which means that we will not do any staffing work. There are a lot of inquiries that come which will say that, you know what, we have a requirement for 3 months. Can one of your resource come and sit in our premise? We're willing to pay what you ask for. And we are not willing to do that simply because, that's not, we don't sell bodies. We don't, do staffing arrangement. We are very clearly a law firm, and we will do what is right from our standpoint, our client standpoint. So we have completely resisted from models that we are not, wanting to do. That's one. The second is that we don't want to deviate from our, stated principles of, certain way of working. So we don't onboard work if, the work or the person who we are working for doesn't fall in that particular, criteria. We are not, we don't have a ego, and we trust people, but that trust has to be reciprocal. If someone is not paying in time, someone is trying to be funny with us on multiple different parameters that we have for ourselves. We have no, for example, someone insults our team. That's a complete red flag, whatever may be the case. If we have made an error, we have no shame in accepting it. But someone passes a racist comment, someone passes, is harsh on our team, we don't like it, and we, pull the plug. So we're very clear who we will work for. We are clear who and how we will work with someone, and we are also clear how we will treat, our team, and how we want our clients to treat our team. We have a zero tolerance on some of these matters. When we work as a team, we are also very clear that we don't have anything which is discrimination vis-a-vis one person's versus the other. Most of these people who work for us have come through some reference or the other. We are friends outside the office, but when it comes to working within the office, we are very clear that this is work that comes precedent, and the relationship is a secondary. We don't have a preference of one versus the other, and that principle we have followed. We have also followed one principle, that as founders and as co-founders of the firm, we will not have our relatives come and work here, because as soon as you have your relatives who are in a commanding position, then that conflict starts. If my, say for example, wife works here, and she falters, that's a big thing in terms of we being able to say that in front of everyone, that this is not what we stand for, and things like that. So we have resisted what we call as related party transactions. We have very clearly made our point to our team that there is no favoritism, and then obviously there is a zero tolerance policy for non-compliances on ethics and also harassment. So I'm proud to say that we have almost 70%, if two-third, if not more, of our total strength as females. and the women folks do a wonderful job, and we have a zero tolerance policy on the harassment. In 8 years, we have had only one blip when someone complained, and we immediately took action and made sure that the lady in question was very, very comfortable, and we ensured that there are zero tolerance. What it does is it gives a lot of comfort to see. Remember, when someone joins your organization, he is putting his or her career at stake. A 2 year, 3 year tenure, when someone thinks that I will spend time with you, you're essentially, it's a lot of responsibility with which you do these things. When you do that, you have to ensure that the trust that someone has put in you as an employer and as a founder, you are, you're doubling it down on it, and doing more than what is expected. Once you do that, you're sure that people will feel comfortable. The other thing that we are proud of that we have done is that we have always paid salary in time. We will pay our 99th salary. This is the 99th month of our salary payment, and we have never missed any deadline, including in COVID times when a lot of established businesses also had to cut down. We did not cut on anyone's compensation. We took a hit as partners, but we did not cut anyone's compensation. We also did not do any late payment, though we the receipts into our pocket as a firm were delayed and continue to be delayed. Things are still not out of wood. We made sure that our team, vendors, and everyone else was paid in time. That again builds a fair amount of trust in the ecosystem, because people know that you're predictable on the payment side and they are fair to you more when it actually comes to the situation. Hopefully that situation never comes, but remember that this is business, anything can happen, and this goodwill that you build over a period of time pays out to you as such. So we've treated people as fair as we can. From our perspective, some people would always feel that they have not been given their right dues, but that's a perception. From our perspective, in our mind, we have been very clear in terms of our conduct. We don't do any favoritism, and we are very clear about how we treat our people and pay people in time. With customers, that's the most important, and they are the reason why you exist. And we are extremely responsive. Being in service industry, what we do is our response time is fabulous. We don't leave any email unanswered. We don't make people wait. We are very responsive as a firm. Our delivery is impeccable. Our responses are prompt. We are not someone who would unduly blackmail our clients in terms of anything in relation to fees or whatever. We like to keep as clear in terms of our conduct on the fees, etc. Over time, what happens is, the outcome that we have, and the feedback that we have, and the response that we have had is that about 98-99% of clients will continue to trust you because of your conduct. The 1%, for various reasons, may not always find what we have done for them or what we attempted to do for them was worthy of their perception about Legal Logic. But that is something that you have to take into your stride till the time your conscience is clear that you did not do it purposely and you are not unethical about it. That's a business, and that is something that you take into your stride. So these 4 principles that I mentioned is something that we follow at this point in time. Now, Legal Logic is a well-known brand, and there's a lot of brand recall with clients. When clients test us, invariably that engagement has increased multifold. We do have given them a credible option. Now, people in Pune, Nagpur, and a lot of other cities who take our services and our esteemed clients have increased their trust over a period of time. and we have given them a credible alternative to the Mumbai law firms and to other larger law firms who they used to go in the past. So the joy that we have is to have created a credible option for clients, credible options for our team to make career, and for clients to seek legal service. And in that process, obviously, we as partners have grown in stature, grown in the eyes of the clients and the legal fraternity, and that is the legacy that we wanted to and we want to continue to create. This is a long journey. These are we have firms which are 100-year-old, so we also wanted to see as to what niche can we create, and the niche that we have created is the new age laws that apply. And we were very clear, one, from geography standpoint, Pune was a blue ocean for the legal, the corporate law that we worked on. And the second was, the kind of work that we are doing, which is a cutting edge on the recent changes in the legal system and the technology changes that are happening. So look at drone, look at defense laws, look at data privacy. All of those areas is something that we practice, and we therefore have a cutting edge. The other thing that we bring on table is our ability to understand how, because we have been in-house lawyers for long enough, having worked in a company, we understand how a CEO thinks, how a CFO thinks, how a company is run, what are the budgets, what are the constraints, what are the pressures, and we address all of those essentially. All of that makes a good sense from overall client perception about Legal Logic, and more often than not, as I said, we have increased our foothold in these clients in recent times. I'll stop here, see if there are questions, and then maybe put some more thoughts. But let me have Dhruv or Madam see if there are questions. If you have any questions, and then I can take next things. Thank you for the patient hearing so far.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience about your journey.
Anyone
It's
who
in
has any questions can please unmute and ask.
This is the opportunity that you have to interact, and unless you interact, so, when I started my career, I never had this whole ecosystem which is now being built, and that is the beauty of what all this cell is all about. You must communicate, you must talk, don't be shy. When I started my career in 1995, I always was good in writing, but there was no confidence to speak English. So when I landed with my first job at Siemens, I saw people with chased. See, in Mumbai, the first language is English. In in Pune, those times it was Marathi. But I was lucky that I started my career in Mumbai, where the first business language was English. And when I observed that I was not able to communicate well, I then said that, I know my job, but I can't communicate, which means that what I'm doing is not being reflected in a proper manner, which effectively is going to hurt my career. And I shed my inhibition of speaking English. And I used to like cricket. I used to like certain of the business. I had an interest in the business news and so on and so forth. So I started to read Times of India, Economic Times, and just started to speak. And today I'm able to, if not a chaste English, I can at least communicate well in the language, which is the business language. And today the communication is an important element. So don't feel shy. Any language is good, but communicate. What it does is it increases the confidence, and you remember people because they have spoken about it. So don't feel shy. This is a great platform to ask and learn in the process. And there's, the good news is there's no exam about all of these things, right? So you don't need to give any exam. It's just a free flow thought.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So the thing is that when you started, you had some amount of experience, right? At least like a decade plus experience. You had the family support, right? You also had co-founders who, like you said, they gave up their practice, their brand, and they merged into legal logic. So you had many things to support you, many people to support you. You had your experience, and you had a lot of support from family and co-founders. Now, vis-a-vis, if you take a student who wants to start up, he doesn't have any of those things. Say he doesn't have experience. Probably his parents would be shocked. Arey, you want to start something of your own? Well, that's too risky. So, what would be your advice to people who want to start up, but they don't have all this? They're not as fortunate as you were at that point of time.
Yeah, so my view on this is that everyone starts with a clean slate, even if he has his parents, or he's the second generation or whatever. We all start with a effectively a clean slate. Someone has an edge, someone has an edge about a gift of jab, someone has a gift of money, someone has a gift of mentors, and so on and so forth. It is up to you to find out what are your strengths and what is the ecosystem in which you want to play. Remember that the constraints will always exist. Even when someone is successful, there are always a constraint. Now today, Wadia as a college is a very reputed one. There's no second thought about it, right? But do you think that Wadia College does not have constraints? It always has constraints. Parking is a constraint. Getting right set of students is a constraint. Getting right set of faculty is a constraint. And it starts each year, right? As your profit and loss starts with zero, all of these constraints are every year. But what is important is your balance sheet, which is your strength. What is balance sheet difference between P&L and balance sheet? Balance sheet is something that builds over a period of time. And when you graduate from your school, your balance sheet has been built for 20, 21 years that you have existed. What is that balance sheet strength? Your friends, right? I mean, today running a business without a co-founder is not recommended with the fast pace that you have. And therefore, this all these forums are very critical and important, where you make friends. You know whether someone will make the cut or someone will not make the cut when you start the business. So creating that network is an important thing. The second important thing is, you now today have information which was not available when we started our careers. Today the information is symmetric. There was an asymmetry at that point in time, and today you know exactly what I know. There's nothing that you don't know what I know, which means that there is a democracy, which is a great thing. It's a great leveler in terms of whether someone has tons of experience or someone doesn't have. Now, how you use that information is up to you. So think about what is your balance sheet. The P&L is a zero on April 1 for everyone. Large firm, small firm, large company, small company. But the balance sheet is what you need to look at. And what do I mean by balance sheet is what is your strength? Rather than focusing on, I don't have, and today, madam, my view is that with, at least in metro cities where the parents have seen that there is an aspiration, the kids have aspiration, they have provided for, most of them would be provided for, not everyone is lucky, but most of them would be provided for. They're willing to take that risk. And we don't find that as a bigger constraint in terms of someone wanting to do a job. And all of this success of this Freshworks, Zomato, and some of these, people that these guys are meeting, the success, we had very limited heroes. Whom we had heroes? Bajaj. And, Bajaj won't show up. Rahul Bajaj is someone, it's very difficult to meet, but it's very easy to meet Rajiv Bajaj and Sanjeev Bajaj because they are in a different generation altogether. It's very difficult to meet with possibly Mukesh Ambani, but his kids are today visible and they are available to be spoken about. So I think things are changing very clearly. You have ability to now see your heroes, and when you see your heroes, a lot of good things happen. So my view on this is, while it is true that there are constraints and the constraints will always remain, it is about your ability to understand what is your balance sheet in 21, 22 years that you will graduate, and how you continue to build on that balance sheet over a period of time will determine your success. Also, second thing is that when you are young, the ability to take risk is far more as compared to the risk that I can take today. You don't have any baggage. You come with zero baggage, which means that whatever you try, you will there's always going to be an incremental success, as against me having a fear of failure. You have no fear, right? I mean, where is the failure? Because you have not tested success, so there's no question of failure. So you come without any baggage, which is a great strength. And obviously you ought to believe that you know never belittle the experience. Certain things happen because of experience, which means that you will learn the ropes as things go, which means you will make mistakes. I have made mistakes. I continue to make mistakes on a every single day basis. Obviously the intensity of those mistakes is different, but you will make mistakes. Don't feel that you will not make mistakes, but that is where you learn, and that is the best way of learning. uh, and will all your ventures become successful? No, I mean, it is not. I was not sure that Legal Logic will be successful, and I had a fallback plan in my mind saying that if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to have an ego saying that no, 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 it has to happen at any cost. No, it doesn't happen. It's okay. You tried. At least you tried, and you have fallback option, essentially. From that standpoint, think that whether your first venture is successful or not, but directionally, have you learned? Directionally, where did you go wrong? Directionally, what will you do to make it good? All of those are good ways of continuing to deliberate. That's the way I would look at it. I don't have a yes or no answer to your question. There will never be an answer like that in a black or white, but these are dots that you need to connect. These are things that you need to look at. And now today you guys are so blessed with so much of information. You just do a Google and you will be in a you are able to listen to someone who is Bill Clinton, the way he speaks, or Obama, the way he speaks, or our prime minister, the oratory that he has. There's so much to learn in terms of some of these things. You want to understand how Steve Jobs did what he did. There is information available. So there's nothing that is not available. It is up to you to pick up and concentrate on your balance sheet rather than worry about, hey, my PNL is not starting. It doesn't start for anyone. You have to build all of that.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for answering that. There's one more question. I'll just read it out. Um, what are the reasons for the failure of startups, despite them, having novel and innovative ideas? That's a question from Vijay.
Yeah, yeah. So Vijay Lakshmi, here is the answer to it, right? I mean, look at roads in Pune or traffic in Pune. Do we all know that there is a problem? Everyone knows there is a problem. Every single person knows there is a problem. Do we have ideas? Obviously, we have tons of ideas. What is the problem? The problem is all about execution. So the failure is because of inability to execute and only plan and only worry about what is this idea, whether this will be successful. Remember that the idea is successful only when it is executed. So good idea on paper is worth nothing unless it's executed well. So the problem always is about execution. The problem is never about the idea. You might have the best of the idea. Do you think that Flipkart today, which is a very successful one, would be the first to think about the problem? I'm sure it is not the case. There would be hundreds of people who would have thought, but they are successful because they executed well. Persistent. Do you think that and I know for sure Persistent started in 1990. How many companies which started in 1990 continue to be relevant today? Handful. Why? because Persistent executed well as compared to others. So it is always about the execution and not about the idea. One. The second is that your ability to keep your team together, your ability to stay together as founders will determine whether you are successful or not. Three, your clarity of thought in terms of your ethical mindset and your value system, your culture will determine whether you will last for long or not. I know these are motherhood statements, but remember that why is Tata a 100+ year group? Why is that regarded in a different way? Is simply because they're very clear about how they will conduct their business, both as business and as a social animal as such. So, it is very clear to me as to why companies are successful and why companies are not successful. But more importantly, all things aside, it is your ability to execute that determines whether you'll be successful or not. All businesses.
Yeah, thank you, sir. There's one more question from Rohan Pawar. Where do you see consulting in the near future? What are the prospects of consulting?
I mean, every single day, Rohan, that I wake up, I feel so energetic because there's so much to do. You read any newspaper, you read any news channel, you look at any news on the net, you will find the opportunities in abundance because the businesses are growing. Today, the Sensex is at 60K, first time it hit. People are now talking about, 100K, so on and so forth. Jab hoga, hoga. But the fact of the matter is that the opportunity is immense. India is talking about 5 trillion economy. We are not even 3 trillion at this point in time. We're trying to go double what our size is. And when all of this happens, there's a lot of activity that will happen where people will need consulting, people will need structuring, people will need legal advice, people will need tax advice, people will need all kind of advices all the time. And the consulting is not just on the legal and accounting side, which is a myth. You need consulting all across, right? You need mentoring, you need all of those things to make something successful. So I'm extremely bullish on the opportunity that the market presents, both on the services side, on the manufacturing side, and on consulting side. There will not be any dearth. The problem is of the human capital. While we have so many people, but who are the relevant people today? If you look at in the IT, there's such a boom, but there's a supply side pressure, which means that right set of people are not available. Now, how as a nation we are able to skill people and get right set of talent, which is relevant for what is required to make the dent. There is definitely an opportunity, and this is a lifetime one, as I mentioned in the start. The next 10-20 years is all for us, for you, and you are in just the right time at this moment where you will find opportunities in abundance for the right people. What that right people is, you have to determine in oneself. But yes, the opportunity is immense.
Thank you, sir. Okay, there's one more question. In the context of this question only, it is Rohan Pawar's question regarding consulting. What is the roadmap of fresh business studies or commerce graduate should draw? If I'm assuming Rohan, Aaron, you mean that if you want to become a consultant, what is the roadmap you should draw, right? That's a question.
So, look, in consulting, experience is a very important one. Think about it. You go to a doctor, your mother is not well. Who do you go to? You go to a trusted person, right? You won't go to someone who's a novice. As soon as you enter an emergency, God forbid you don't have to, but whenever, if you have gone to any emergency ward, there are young resident doctors who come and first attend. Now, if it's a case is critical, what do you say? Call a experienced doctor. That's the first response that you have because you don't want to risk. So remember, when you are talking about a client is looking out for a credible advice. He is looking out for credible consulting. So when you are looking at any consulting opportunity, and especially when you are in a commerce, law, accounting field, you obviously have to have certain level of experience. So what is my advice? My advice is that, learn your ropes. Once you learn your ropes, then will be the right time for you to get into an independent consulting. Remember, one, you must have confidence. The second, the client who's wanting advice should have confidence in you. When will he have confidence? When he knows that you have delivered in the past with something, and therefore you are able to advise with confidence to him. Remember this doctor story, and you will get what I'm trying to talk to. Therefore, don't be in rush and create an unnecessary expectation of yourself. Most of these things, don't work out because you have an unreasonable expectation of yours. Your expectation should be reasonable, that you are learning. There is a learning in the process. Once you learn, you then become credible. You need to write, you need to talk, you need to establish your credential, you need to be visible to people. They need to know that you have a credibility to advise and consult, and then the work will start to happen. So my advice to you would be that, work with someone for a certain period of time, establish that those credentials, establish that trust in the ecosystem, get your name out, and people will start to approach you. As soon as you know that people are approaching you, that's the time when you could venture on your own with the help of a couple of your friends, and then I'm sure you will see better days to come, and that confidence level will be far different. That's my clear suggestion to you.
All right, thank you, sir. Any more? Any more questions from anyone? If there aren't, then I just want to say something. If there aren't any questions. So I'd like to, it's a pleasure to listen to you speak. Okay, there's a feedback from which is being posted in the chat box. The attendees are requested to fill that up. I'd just like to thank you. You raised such good points, but what I really liked was, and which I feel is important today for the millennials, really, is the importance of, as you said, building goodwill. And you can't build goodwill without giving, because generally the thing is everybody looks at, okay, what's in it for me. So the important thing is that you give and then it will come back, and you highlighted that is really nice. And that's what basically is why even if you had a supportive boss, you had such a supportive system where people referred you, is because you have given them something, and then they're giving back to you, which I think is very important. Students need to learn this early in life. You can't just expect, expect from others. You have to give them first. And you build credibility by sticking to your principles. Yes. So, first, defining what you stand for, which is what Sir has said, and being responsive and prompt. This is something which many people, oh, okay, mails are unanswered for days together, or messages, okay, if we don't look at it, or even if we see it, we don't reply or we don't respond. So these things, little things, are very important, and they say something about you, which is what Sir has highlighted. And when you are responsive and you are prompt, automatically you are building your own personal brand, which is the first step to, when if beyond going and building a business brand, first you build who you are, and then you can do that. So you raised many good points, but I really like these, so thank you for sharing those. Over to you, Dhruv.
Points, ma'am, now that you say this, sorry for
No, no,
this is
no.
not preaching. I think two more things. One is, be patient with yourself. One of the things that we observe with young team members who join us is that, there's always good that you are impatient, but be patient with yourself, simply because, there is in whatever in the kind of, because you're a commerce student, accounting student, you somewhat must be pursuing law or other thing, is that you are looking at very clearly being patient with yourself and therefore reaping that benefit. You don't need to think about, I want to be successful today. There is a reason why someone is successful, and it took a long period of time. It takes a long training sessions for Virat Kohli to come and perform. It took a long time for Neeraj to do what he did. It's a lot of hard work. So be patient, things will happen. The second is that don't compare yourself, right? What Dhruva does and what Rohan does, both have a different personality, both have different background. Now, trying to be Dhruva when I'm Rohan does not work. Good things will happen to both of you if you are yourself and not try and see, you should take motivation if, Virat scored 100, how can I score, rather than trying to chase it in a different way. I think that's something that is very important today. What is happening is, with this all nonsense forwards that happen on WhatsApp, early morning, good morning, and all that, so you get disturbed, and you get really it's very difficult to digest as to what is right and what is wrong, and therefore trying to compare yourself with others does not work out. If Zomato is Zomato, that's okay. You don't want, not everyone is going to be Zomato, believe you me. But you have your own identity, and there are late boomers. It's okay to be late boomers rather than not arrive at all. So, those were the two other points that Madam was, while she was trying to, articulate, that be patient with yourself and don't get into too much of comparison. It's okay to compare, but it's okay not to be compared as well.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you.
On behalf of Nesvaria College of Commerce, I thank you once again for engaging session, and I would also like to extend sincere thanks to everyone for their valuable presence, and I hope that it has added value to your knowledge base. So the feedback form link has been shared in the chat box. So I request everyone to fill. Thank you, sir, and I hereby declare the session closed. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you
day.
very much. All the best. Bye.
Thanks, sir. Thanks. Bye. Have a nice day.
Same to you.
Thanks everyone for joining, especially the teachers. Thanks, and students also for who joined us today. They were there yesterday also. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, madam.